Okay, well, good morning to all of you. Thanks for being here. I think you will have a nice time here because we have today Professor Jens Horbach from the University of Augsburgo. He is a pioneer in the study of eco-innovation. Well, I think that he has two main papers, 2008 research policy, 2012 ecological economics. He has been involved quite a lot in the drivers of eco-innovation, which is something we have also looked at. So, and yeah, well, I don't have much words for you because it's really a luxury to have him here. You know, he's probably the most important researcher on eco-innovation in the world. I would not exaggerate if I say this. So, just saying that means, just gives you an idea of the status of his work. So thanks a lot for being here. He will be presenting two papers, one on climate change, another one on the climate change effectiveness and innovation, another one on the energy crisis. And thanks a lot, and the floor is yours. Thanks.
Thank you very much for inviting me here to the Institute. I'm very happy to come to Madrid. It's my second time. 2014, I was in Madrid with Esther Martinez-Vos. And I'm very happy to present two new papers. The one is already published in research policy. This is the one that I present first. And the second one is very fresh because the discussion paper dates from 2 weeks ago. But first of all, I will present the joint work with Christian Rammer from the Center for European Economic Research in Mannheim about climate change effectiveness and innovation in German firms. We wanted to look at the role of climate change related factors on innovation. We all know, we know the literature about regulation and innovation. But that's only one aspect of climate change, and therefore we wanted to enlarge this aspect a little bit. And it was 5 years ago that Christian told me, oh, we have some space in the Mannheim Innovation Survey. We should introduce an additional environmentally related question. And then I also got the idea to do something about climate change, and we agreed. And then we developed this question and we introduced it. And in former times, in 2007-8, we also introduced the eco-innovation module in the CIS, which now has become obligatory. And I think that's very important. And in fact, we have to analyze these climate change related factors. In Germany, for example, we even try to reach climate neutrality in 2045. That will be, I think that will be difficult. I'm not very optimistic about that. But for that, we absolutely need eco-innovations. Because eco-innovations, these are innovations that try to improve factors that help to reduce the impact on climate. And therefore, these innovations, this type of innovations is crucial for the mitigation and for the adaptation activities in climate change. And we all know that we have government policies, we have CO2 certificates, tradable permits, we have taxes, we have all that. But there are also other factors because we have price signals, costs for the firms that may play a role. We have also demand shifts. And at the moment, I'm also working on not only with firm data, but also with household data to get a better notion about the demand on environmental related issues. This was a research note I prepared for the European Commission some 2 years ago. And therefore, the demand becomes more and more important. And it's also perhaps a new research area to find out a better linkage of firm data and the behavior of households. That is one thing that I'm really interested in. Therefore, this was my introduction. Now I will talk something about the innovation effect of climate change effectiveness, and then I will turn to the CIS 2020 data and some descriptive results, and then we get the econometric analysis followed by some conclusions. In fact, what are the dimensions that we can look at? The dimensions are, in fact, the direct impacts from extreme weather conditions, deemed to be not so really important in Germany, I think. But it's one aspect they have to look at. And the second, and this seems to be very important, the cost of adjusting to climate change consequences, the cost of reorganizing production process or to respond to hot weather and all these factors. The costs are very relevant. And then we have the policy measures to mitigate climate change and the customer demand for more climate-friendly products. These are the four aspects that we considered for this additional question in the CIS, because this should be the most important ones concerned to the firms. And therefore, we formulated three hypotheses. In fact, you know this is a mere empirical paper. It's not a big theoretical background behind. It's an empirical question, and therefore we formulate if a firm is affected by climate change, the more likely it will engage in innovations for mitigating adverse impacts. That's one of the most important hypotheses. And then it's also clear that these climate change effectiveness does not relate to all types of eco-innovation, but to some types it is more important. And fortunately, we have the eco-innovation module in the CIS questionnaire, which makes a difference between process innovations and product innovations and many types of this. I will show the question a little bit later. And the third hypothesis is a very important one for this process, because we try to analyze if these climate change related factors also have an influence and an impact on other innovations non-related to eco-innovation. The idea is that you have, for example, to adapt whole production processes to, and therefore you need not directly eco-innovations for that. And therefore, we also analyze this aspect. This is not, I will show it, it's not so easy, because many innovators are also eco-innovators, and therefore you have to find a solution for this problem, but I will present it. Okay, let's turn to the literature overview. It's also interesting. In fact, we don't find any paper that deals with all these different aspects of climate change relatedness in a comprehensive way. We find some papers. For example, there's new analysis from Schickfuss of 21. They find out a non-zero relationship, and they used green patenting. That's also a good idea to analyze eco-innovation processes, but I'm more specialized in the analysis of survey data, because I also see some limitations of patent analysis, but they found a relationship between the importance of climate issues and the firm's green innovation activities. There's also the old, quite old analysis of Penner and Giles of 2015, and they didn't find a really relevant relationship between climate change and in the US car industry, and they tell about quite weak external pressures, so that there is no easy relationship. That's also a problem of the literature for the European area, because we had very weak influence of the ETS, European trade system, in the early years. From 2005, you know that the prices were at the end of the period always at near zero, and and then there's no impact to to do something. And this was also the result of some especially the analysis of Lillestam of 2021. They reviewed 19 peer-reviewed empirical papers, and they saw that the carbon pricing had no mentionable effects on technological change. That's what they said. But there's also one analysis on the demand. It's of Agin of 2020, and they already found that greener consumer values seem to be important. That was also the incentive for us to do something in that direction for the German economy. And there are some analysis, especially of my French colleague of the OECD, the Chelebret. He analyzed the EU ETS, and he already said that it increased low carbon innovation, found this using patents. This was also a result of Martin and others, and Joseph. They also find a clear relationship. And another analysis, more recent analysis, finds more important impacts. Even that's not astonishing because of the newer data with a better functioning European trade system. Yeah. After this short, in fact, there are some analysis, but it's not so comprehensive. And I think there are very, very few analysis directly referring on firm data. It's unfortunately this is really a real research gap, and therefore we tried to introduce such a question in the CIS questionnaire, and then we look at the community innovation of the reference year 2020. It has two separate modules. It has one separate model on eco-innovation and the separate model on climate change effectiveness. And there's one, I would like to tell something about one methodological problem that we had. In a questionnaire, it's always very important that you don't put these very related questions together, because we wanted to find out from all firms that they tell us something about their climate change relatedness, and not only from firms that are already doing eco-innovation. And if you put the two questions together, the firms feel, okay, it's eco-innovation, we will respond, and our eco-innovation it's not interesting for us. Therefore, we put the question at the beginning of the questionnaire. So, and the eco-innovation model was at another part of the questionnaire, more at the end. And I think this is a very important point. So you get, and this was also the case, there are all firms, besides some missing values, that's clear, but all firms responded to this question, and not only the firms doing eco-innovation. And that's important. We had 8,462 observations for this, and this is the eco-innovation model that we have. That's the question of 2018 to 2020. This eco-innovation module was firstly introduced in 2008. This was the first time that we got this eco-innovation module, and it was then repeated 2014, 2020. It was now in 22, and it will be obligatory for the European countries. Unfortunately, there is one problem in the European countries that we don't have in the German questionnaire. The European questionnaire, there's only a yes/no answer, and this is problematic in my opinion. I was in endless discussions in Eurostat at the time, and they said, no, we have no place. We put yes/no, and okay. If you have, let's take the example, reduce energy use per unit of output. Each firm does something, and they say yes. Yeah. And therefore, the question is not useful in that sense. Yeah.
What would be the limit between significant and insignificant?
Yes,
is there like a threshold?
That's self-perceived.
Okay, so
that's self-perceived. You cannot
some small things.
If they do small things, they have to put insignificant, and if they really do something, if they have planned actions to do something. So it is explained. It is significant. And I think this question is better than the yes/no question, because in econometric estimations I always use this category and take a dummy insignificant and no together as a zero. And it's more information compared to the yes/no question.
So Eurostat doesn't like the liquor.
It's incredible. It's incredible. It's really incredible. Yeah.
One can use that.
We always discuss this with them, but they don't do it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a good improvement.
I have doubt about this because the benefit is significant in environmental terms or in economic terms?
It's described in the first question.
With any
Did you with any of the following environmental benefits? And if yes, was there contribution? If yes, was there contribution to environment rather significant?
Assess that? I mean, they can say I have reduced the energy by 10%.
Yeah.
But how is this significant in environmental terms? I don't know. How
Yes,
do they know?
it's always self-perceived. In surveys, you always try self-perceived answers. That's clear.
Yeah.
But yeah, you cannot do it otherwise. But if you put yes or no, this is
No,
less,
that's worse, of course.
that's
It's much worse.
less,
I agree.
less information.
But still,
Yes, but you're right. In fact, there's always the problems of surveys.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's clear. But
Yeah,
but
of course.
in fact, let's take a glance at.
no, what I mean is they could think that this was significant in economic terms. I have reduced my cost,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not necessarily in environmental terms. You see what I mean?
They have yes, but they have to. This is a self-perceived answer. They are doing
Okay.
something, and they say that it's significant or not. But that's always a question. I know this is a critic of service as such because, but the most part of our statistics are based on service, on self-perceived answers. Yeah. I'm sorry, or even if you know that the official surveys of statistical offices, it's self-perceived.
Yeah.
You have to trust the guy who answers. And there's no other possibility. In fact, you have to do this. Yeah.
Also, let me try to defend surveys because I mean we do them too. It is problematic what you say. It's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
However, it is the same for all firms, meaning that your results are structurally coherent because everybody replies based on his or the firm's perception. So the results you obtain are positively biased, yes, but they are structurally coherent in themselves.
There's a structural bias. That's clear. Yeah, but you have all firms. You have to have this problem.
And also you get information that you would not get the
Yeah.
other way.
But I think that
Yeah.
there is also a bias that the respondents respond what is expected. No, it is
Yes.
expected that you are.
Yeah, that might be the problem. Yeah.
But this
Yeah.
might be stronger in sectors that are more heavily polluting, for example.
Yeah, but we analyze these also the different sectors, and we control for sectors all that, and you find in fact the empirical side of the problem shows that it's not really a big problem because really you observe much variance in the answers and all that, and this is an empirical answer to this, and therefore we can trust it. Otherwise, what we are doing, yes, you can take the position. This all is useless. All surveys are useless. We use patterns, but with patterns you have other biases. Other biases, for example, you only capture part of eco-innovations. That you can get patents and all. This is also a problem. You normally get the more industrial related eco-innovations. Here we get the organizational changes, which are very important for environmental results and all that. This is another approach. In fact, okay, I also combine patterns with such an approach, but it's one always second best to do something. I know. This was, and we have the difference between these 9 process innovations within the enterprise. We also have the end user, and there we can decide. Yeah, and this was the additional question in 2020 that we developed. It was here with the Likert scale, high, medium, low, not relevant. And we get the government policies or measures. We get the customer demand here that help mitigate, and we get the increasing cost of input prices resulting from climate change and the impacts of extreme weather conditions. And it's always a question that has to be that are self-perceived answers. That's clear. But in fact, we put it in the questionnaire at the beginning because so that it has nothing to do with the eco-innovation question. All firms can answer it, and they did it in a good way, I think. There were only few missing values for that. And I hope we can trust in the answers. It's always a problem. Here you see the answers for the high and medium categories. We see that the weather conditions are less important. The costs are really important, 18% here and 28% here. We see the regulation, but the regulation is less important than the cost, interestingly. But in fact, that's what we expected, that the cost is the most important. But we also see a very important point for demand. And we will see in the econometric analysis that is extremely important for product innovations. And therefore, the demand side matters, in my opinion. And we see that any means one of these, at least then we see that more than half is affected. That's also not surprising, in fact. This was the descriptives of this question. Yeah, the estimation strategy is also quite clear. We have the climate change effectiveness as important variable. We get the innovation, and we would like to find out if the innovation depends on this climate change effectiveness, besides other control variables that we have to look at. We will see the control variables, its size, age, and competition, and sectors, and all that, the whole whole possibilities that you have. And to get a more robust analysis, I decided to take two paths. One is the probit regression analysis, and the second is propensity score matching, the treatment effects. And then we try to find out if the results are comparable. Yeah, here we get the first results. These are making the difference between all innovations and eco-innovations. Here are the all innovations. We don't put the 4 points together in one regression because of multicollinearity problems. That's not, they are correlated, that's clear. And therefore we estimate different regressions for that. And what we always see that all these effectiveness variables are relevant, and more relevant with a marginal effect for eco-innovations compared to all innovations. It's more important. That's also what we expected. And here you see the different, the main important control variables. It's the size, it's the share of the academic staff, it's the R&D activity, subsidies, expert, the age, cooperation, and competition intensity. Yes, it's always, I expect the question to always on indigeneity. Therefore, I talked about this to answer to this question that will come. We talk about correlations, because we have a cross section that's clear. We have quite good exogenous question on climate change effectiveness. We can describe it as exogenous because it was another point that we pointed out, and therefore, but in the paper we the causality claims, yes. I'm always a little bit skeptic about it. If they use panel data and different years, they say that they fulfill the conditions of causality. I'm really a little bit skeptic about it, because what we are doing are structures. We analyze structures, and normally structures are quite stable in time. Yeah, And if there's stability in time, you cannot say that one event has caused some other event in the future. And if you have stable structures, it's if you have really time-dependent events, that's another thing. But what we are doing here is analysis of structures, nothing else. But nevertheless, let's talk about correlations. Yeah.
Well, I was not going to say that. I was going to say interactions. Do you? Well, the paper is published.
Yeah.
So
We cannot change it.
yeah.
I will go. We will go back to research, but we will introduce some interactions. We might do this, yes.
The speculation is because the only sign that differs between all inno and eco inno is academic, actually, no?
Export.
Expert.
Experts as well.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, that might be. That depends on.
No. Expert changes from significant to non-significant.
Here, yeah.
Yes.
But academic changes from positive
Here.
to negative.
Where?
Sign.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this is an interesting result that you get in nearly all eco-innovation studies.
Yeah.
That the academic stuff is less important for eco-innovations compared to other innovations. That's a result that I got for many other studies.
So I find that very interesting, and I was wondering that in a future paper, you could interact with the type of affectedness.
Yes, that might be possible. Yeah. That might be possible. Yeah.
Okay. So there's also a consistency with what Guillaume was finding, no?
Yes,
Climate
yes.
demand is.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, that's a good idea. Yeah. You're right.
So I was going to ask about the budget, right?
Okay. But this is a very good comment. Yeah. Okay. We also see that these are the average treatment effects. They are quite similar, a little bit higher, but it's consistent with the results of the probability analysis. Quite consistent. We find that all that you have already seen, that all indicators are correlated to the eco-innovation types, and we also see that the marginal effects are always higher for eco-innovations. And then in a second step, we also introduced. It was one comment of the reviewers to analyze a score of all climate change effectiveness measures, but the results are quite similar. Then we use the CCA score as independent variable, and there are no surprising results, I would say. Therefore, we'll go through that. But what is very important, and then I thought that most of the important things are you get significant results for all inno, but in all inno, this was the results for all innovations, but the eco-innovations are included. And then in the next step, I tried to really separate the samples and find out the firms, analyze the firms that have nothing to do with eco-innovation. You reduce the sample, that's clear, but then you get the PC non-eco means the process innovations oriented other innovations, and the PD non-eco is the product innovations, other innovations. And then we get the very interesting results. That's also following our hypothesis that the climate cost is really significant for the process innovations. That confirms the idea that with eco-innovation adaptation to climate change factors, you have to readapt the whole production process and rearrange the organization and in order to do something in that direction. And these costs are really, climate costs lead to other process innovations. And there's also there's a literature on the, perhaps you remember about, also Hannah Hottenrott has written about about the crowding out of other innovations by eco-innovations. This is one argument against this literature, in fact. And the effects were already quite low, I would say. It was also Giovanni Marin who published a paper in that direction. It was interesting, but this is, with that sample, an argument against, I would say. And the second important result is really significant and very stable, that the climate demand is really relevant also for other innovations in the product sector. And that's also a stable result that we found in that respect, I think. And this was, I think, a very important thing. Yes, I already talked about this. Demand triggers other product innovations, and we find the process innovations at the cost of climate change also leads to an adaptation of this. Okay. Then in a third step, we also analyzed the effects of this climate change relatedness on the different product innovations and the different process innovations. And here in that table, you don't see the other correlated variables because of the space of the table. But they are always, these are different models, always with the same correlates. And here, yes, we have just time, 5 minutes, and then we go to discussion. And we go to the results. We see that the demand for climate is for all types of eco-product innovation very relevant. That confirms the other results that we already have. And we see that the climate regulation measures, that's not surprising, also trigger lower energy consumption, other emissions. And also a relevant aspect here is that the costs are not relevant for the product innovations. These are relevant for process innovations that we see in this table. So see the different process innovations that we analyzed with this, also probed on analysis and average treatment effects. And we see that some differences. We see that climate regulation is important for processes that reduce CO2 emissions and also substitute fossil by renewable energy sources. And this will also be a very important aspect in my second paper that I will present today, because this is a striking, interesting result of this. But we'll turn to this a little bit later. And here you also see that climate-related weather changes are also important for reduction of other air emissions. And we see that eco-innovations that substitute dirty by clean technologies are also important. Okay, to summarize and to give policy conclusions, we see that all indicators for climate change effectiveness are important for eco-innovation and non-eco-innovation, with lower marginal effects for other innovations. But this is a quite clear result, I think. And we see that the climate change effectiveness has heterogeneous effects on innovations, especially on lower energy consumption. It's not a surprising effect, this result. And what comes in mind also for policy is not only directly regulate the firms, but it's really important that the population is in favor of products that are environmentally friendly. And the demand is more and more important. I think that this is a very important point in that paper, that the only paper that looks at in this direction is the one of Agian 2020. But there are too few ideas about that. And I think this might be an interesting future direction of research, perhaps. This is now published 2025. This is no, this is clear because it's the January volume of research policy that and now it's